I caught my family lying to me and exposed them live. The camera light turned red. I opened the envelope and read dates. A hush rolled through the community hall, the kind that makes paper sound like thunder. My name is Casey. I teach 8th graders to label sources, cite claims, and keep receipts because truth without proof gets bulldozed. I didn't come to ruin a memorial/fundraiser. I came because my family turned grief into a balance sheet and expected me to pay it quietly. They said grandma left nothing. They said medical debts swallowed the house. They told me to stop digging and show respect. Respect for whom? The stage flowers smelled like a hospital gift shop. I held on to the smell so I wouldn't shake. 2 minutes, then we're back to the slideshow the pastor had warned. Just a thank you, right? Just facts. I answered, because facts can be a thank you when lies are thick. Priya sat in the back row, hands folded, eyes steady. Mom, Diane, watched from a table of cousins, jaw pinched with that polite terror that cares more about neighbors than numbers. Mark leaned against the sound booth looking like a consultant on a magazine cover. My brother is good at looking official. Good enough to walk a deed through a county window before the funeral programs were even stapled. The envelope weighed ounces, but felt like iron. Inside, certified copies. Will, recorder pulls, the notary's journal page. There were clean wires in there too. Escrow disbursement that moved fast as gossip. I thought about my students. Miss Casey, how do we know if something's true? You trace it to the record. You note the date. You write the book and page. You say the number out loud, even if your voice trips over it. The live stream counter ticked up. Comments bloomed on the church's Facebook feed. Little hearts, prayer hands. She was a saint. She was. She taught me to press napkins, to freeze soup, to write the phone bill on the envelope so I'd never forget. She also taught me this. If someone says there's no paper, check the drawer labeled papers. The mic clicked like a lock turning. I stepped forward and let the red light name the stakes. The live stream clock hit 0 as I unfolded the county envelope. People say our family only tells white lies, the kind you fold into casseroles so the edges go down easy. Growing up, it was small things. The cat ran away, we rehomed him. The check is in the mail, it wasn't. We'll split that later, we didn't. We called it smoothing. Adults smoothed, kids adapted. Grandma didn't smooth. She labeled everything in block letters, wrote dates on masking tape, and put important papers in a biscuit tin. She called it insurance for memory. When she died, the tin disappeared into a whisper. There was no will. A week later, I was told to chip in for final medical debts. When I asked for paperwork, the room cooled 10 degrees. Casey, Mom said, don't be morbid. You know how hospitals are. Mark added, you've never handled probate. Let me take the lead. He smiled like a landing page. We'll keep it clean. So there's no will? I asked. There was never a will, he said, with the kind of certainty people buy suits to practice. I nodded, because nodding is cheaper than shouting at a table filled with potato salad and grief. But grief has an audit trail if you listen. I noticed the estate sale moving too fast. Flyers printed the day after the funeral plans posted. I noticed Grandma's church friend wearing Grandma's blue brooch before the obituary ink dried. I noticed Mom's new key on a ring that used to hold Grandma's spare house key, and how it wasn't there anymore. When I asked about the brooch, the friend said, Mark said it was going to Goodwill anyway. When I asked about the key, Mom said, please don't make this harder. I taught second period with a knot in my ribs and went home to a group chat where jokes about debt goblins hit open palms. We need 2,000 from you this week, my cousin typed, as if need were a law and not a choice. I typed, can you send the invoice? The chat went quiet like a stage after a bad punchline. Then Mom called me ungrateful, and Mark said I was making things ugly. They taught me smiling meant obedience. I learned records meant oxygen. The first red flag didn't wave. It whispered from a document index. Priya showed me how to use the county search. Last name, parcel, document type. It's all public, she said. They count on you not looking. Up popped a quitclaim deed recorded 3 days before Grandma's memorial, transferring the house to Rook Ridge Holdings, LLC. I swallowed the name like a pill that stuck. The grantee address was a UPS mailbox. The signers, Diane Maris, POA, notarized by K. Boone. I stared until the letters dried out. POA. I asked. Power of attorney, Priya said. Ends at death. She pointed to the recording date. Even if the signature predates the passing, this timeline stinks. We pulled the book and page, and I wrote them in my notebook as if saying them aloud could make me taller. Check the notary, Priya said. Real ones keep journals. Boone's notary journal was a scan away, and there it was, a line for a signature date that didn't match family lore. Under ID verified, Boone had written known signer, no ID provided, which is legal in some states, but sounded like a shortcut yawning open. Meanwhile, the estate sale site showed items already sold: Grandma's sewing table, her pressure cooker, the framed cross-stitch of Psalm 23. A neighbor posted photos of a pre-sale walkthrough, time-stamped 2 weeks before the funeral. I zoomed in until the pixels screamed. There was Mark in the corner, explaining flow. I heard his voice in my head. We had to move fast. I stood in Grandma's now-empty living room and listened to the hum the house made without furniture. Houses hum differently when their names are switched on paper. The thermostat clicked. The mailbox held a pre-approved credit offer addressed to current resident. That phrase felt like a trespass I could hold in my hand. I pressed it flat on the kitchen counter and breathed. Priya slid a legal pad toward me. If they say there's no will, you ask the probate clerk for the index. If there is a will, it's filed or it's withheld. Both are paths. Paths mean choices. Choices mean people, not weather. Doubt grew teeth when I saw a deed dated before the funeral. Family dinner was spaghetti and a collection plate. They framed it as sharing the load. But the script was pressure dressed in prayer. Hospitals are ruthless, Mom said, folding her napkin until it shook. We covered what we could, but there's still a gap. Mark slid a paper toward me with numbers that floated like balloons. Round, vague, friendly. 2,000 from you closes it, he said. Then we can breathe. I ran my finger down the page. What's the provider name? Where's the account number? He smiled the professional smile again. They don't always include that. Don't be difficult. I'll bring a check when I see the bill, I said. Everything slowed, like the moment before a tray hits tile. Casey, Mom whispered, this is family. That's why I want a receipt, I whispered back. Mark's jaw reset. You're making this ugly, he said. You're choosing paperwork over people. I teach kids paperwork is how we protect people, I said. I'm not a kid, he snapped. Then show me the bill. A neighbor named Ruth cleared her throat. Your realtor showed me the place, she said quietly. Weeks ago. I thought it was fast, but they said everyone agreed. Forks froze midair. Mom closed her eyes. Mark laughed a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. We explored options, he said. Ruth blinked. The sign said Rook Ridge. That's you? He didn't answer. The sauce tasted like pennies. Later, in the driveway, Mom grabbed my sleeve. Please, she said, don't embarrass us. I looked at the house where we learned to tie shoes and keep secrets. I won't, I said, and meant it. Embarrassment isn't my goal. Eris. At home, the group chat lit up with glittering rage. Traitor, a cousin typed. Grandma would be ashamed. I wanted to write back that Grandma labeled her casseroles with dates. Grandma believed in receipts, not rumors. Priya called instead. Breathe, then list, she said. Tomorrow, recorder again, notary journal, escrow disbursement request. You're not the storm, you're the weather report. A neighbor's whisper tugged the thread, and the family's sweater unraveled. Silence can be armor if you line it with records. I turned off social notifications and turned toward paperwork, the only language that doesn't care who's oldest at the table. Priya and I met at the county building when the doors opened. The clerk in window 3 had the calm of someone who sees human dramas reduced to numbers every day. Recorder pulls? She asked. We slid forms across. Book and page. Here, she said, tapping. Certified copies ready in 20 minutes. 20 minutes to change the shape of a story. While we waited, Priya walked me to the probate window. Search index for Maris, Grace, she said, spelling Grandma's name. The monitor flickered to last will and testament, filed. The air thinned. Filed 6 months ago, the clerk said. My skin prickled. Can I view? I asked. Copy with ID, she said, as if handing me oxygen. Inside. Equal shares to Mom, Mark, and me. A note about the house held in trust until debts verified with documentation. A sentence Grandma must have written when the world was kind. No distributions without receipts. The biscuit tin had gone digital. Certified deed copies came warm from the printer. We added a request for escrow disbursement breakdown at the local title office. We can release a summary to a named heir, the agent said. I showed ID. She printed a one-page sheet of wire dates and amounts that didn't spell hospital. They spelled cash out, service fees, and owner proceeds, wired to Rook Ridge Holdings. I put my finger on the line. Owner. The agent shrugged. LLC on record. Back at my apartment, we stacked everything like a crash cart, labels on tabs, duplicates in envelopes, one packet sealed for the pastor. Priya recorded me reading the key lines out loud until my voice stopped wobbling. Keep it boring, she said. Boring is unbreakable. My phone buzzed unanswered across the room. There are arguments designed to eat your evidence. Mine would stay hungry tonight. I chose paper over posts and silence that gathered sharp edges. Notaries are the librarians of signatures. Their margins tell stories. We found K. Boone's office between a vape shop and a tax place, a strip mall cathedral to everyday legality. Boone wore readers on a chain and the expression of someone already braced for drama. Journal entries are public record, Priya said gently. Boone slid the big book over like a family album with better penmanship. There it was, line item for Diane Maris, POA for Grace Maris, quitclaim deed to Rook Ridge Holdings, signed 2 days before Grandma's last hospital admission. Under ID, known signer. Under notes, emergency timing per signer. POA ends at death, I said, trying to keep judgment out of my voice. Recording after is messy. Boone nodded once. People rush grief, Boone said. But the record says what it says. We asked for a copy, Boone obliged. You didn't see this from me, Boone added, which is funny because we literally did. The law isn't a feeling. It's a timestamp. At the title office, a clerk printed an escrow timeline. The wire to Rook Ridge went out the morning of the memorial, hours before the slideshow that painted Grandma's life in daisies. I held the paper like a hot pan and set it down carefully. Can you confirm recipient control? Priya asked. Registered agent only, the clerk said. When we searched the LLC filing, the registered agent was a service, but the organizer line listed M. Maris. Mom called while we drove back. I let it ring into voicemail where her fear couldn't bend me in real time. We had to move fast, she said, voice quivering. Please don't do anything dramatic. The word dramatic clicked into place like a trap. Dramatic is what people call it when the truth refuses to whisper. We sat in my car outside the church and watched the text test the live stream. 2 cameras, a light tree, a comment feed projected near the soundboard. Priya squeezed my hand. You know the first sentence, she said. After that, just read the dates. Reading dates felt like the most radical thing I'd ever do. The notary's journal cracked open, and our timeline stopped pretending. Breadcrumbs never look like breadcrumbs at first. They look like errands. I pulled the parcel's grantor/grantee index and traced every recording tied to the house for 10 years. I noted a refinance 5 years ago, Grandma as trustee on a simple living trust, and then the sudden, hungry quitclaim to Rook Ridge Holdings, LLC. At the title office, an assistant slid me an escrow summary. Fee schedule, wire timestamps, and disbursements. No hospital payee codes, no provider names, no account numbers. Owner proceeds hit the LLC the morning of the memorial, followed by an internal fee that smelled like staging costs. Priya flagged each line with a neon tab like triage. We texted the listing agent from a number she didn't recognize. Hey, when did walkthrough start at 412 Juniper? She replied, pre-market previews 2 weeks before funeral, family signed early access addendum. She attached a blurred photo of a sheet with M. Maris scribbled where an owner's name should be. Y'all found a unicorn buyer, she added, like this was cute. Priya screenshotted the metadata, then pulled the mail forwarding confirmation from USPS that showed a move date set by someone with Mom's maiden name as a secret question. At storage, the unit's keypad log showed multiple entries on the day hospice admitted Grandma. Authorized user added last month, the clerk said, looking down. Mark. I stared at the cement floor and counted my breath like I do with panicked students taking oral exams. I photographed the log, the keypad, the lazy security camera. Boring proof stacks. Boring proof is a wall that doesn't tip when pushed. Mom kept calling. I kept forwarding her to voicemail because my voice shakes when I'm loved and lied to at the same time. In her messages, she used the words family and ugly like salt and sugar, trying to season my doubt into silence. Priya wrote debt claims is not equal to documented payees on a sticky and slapped it on the folder. We stay in math, she said, not mythology. In the car, I read the escrow line again until the numbers steadied into a sentence I could say out loud. The summary screamed one thing. Debts were a story, not math. The what arrived before the why, bare, unromantic, undeniable. At probate, the clerk pulled up the will grandma filed months before her last fall. Plain language, like her, equal shares to Diane, Mark, and me. The house held in trust until debts were verified with receipts. No distributions without documentation. A stapled addendum named me as backup trustee if the primary declined or became conflicted. My hands warmed around the copy like a cup of tea I didn't know I needed. The will existed. The trust existed. The guardrails existed. The lie was that they didn't. So how did the house jump its guardrail? In the file sat a consent to transfer dated 3 weeks before the quitclaim, with a signature that looked like my handwriting had been photocopied through a snowstorm. That's not your signature, Priya said, dry as chalk. Someone used a scan, I whispered, tracing where the pen pressure should have been. Attorney Ruiz, friend of a colleague, looked at a photo and texted 3 sentences, inkjet artifacts. Lifted from another doc. Consent void if forged. We cross-referenced. I found the birthday card I'd mailed Mom last year. The loop on my Y looked transplanted. Whoever pasted the loop didn't notice the faint confetti print behind it. The Notary Journal didn't list me appearing that day. The POA note linked to Mom, not to me, and POA dies at death. Meanwhile, the quitclaim recorded after death rode in on that brittle consent, like a pirate ship flying a church flag. I didn't know the motive yet. Pressure, pride, panic, but I knew the mechanics. A shell LLC eats a house. A forged consent salts the earth. Everyone says debts until forms are asked to open their mouths. Forms are not brave or scared. They simply speak when stamped. Priya took the consent and circled the loop. We don't have to prove motive, she said. We show what happened and when. I nodded until the room stopped spinning like a carousel at closing time. The forgery wasn't clever. It was confident, like he expected applause. Plans are just calm written down. We wrote ours in block letters. Step 1. Assemble a packet heavy enough to hold its shape under pressure. Certified will and trust pages. Recorder book/page for the quitclaim. Notary journal extract with the off date. Escrow disbursement with wire times. The agent's text. USPS forwarding. Storage keypad log. Step 2. Staple a 1-page timeline with plain verbs and timestamps big enough for the back row. Step 3. Record me reading it, so if a mic died, I wouldn't. Ruiz met us at my kitchen table after school. He doesn't do theatrics, he does checklists. Don't accuse on camera, he said. State 2 facts and hold up the documents. The will's terms and the deed chain with dates. Invite verification. Hand-sealed packets to a neutral party, the pastor or moderator. He slid over 3 envelopes pre-labeled. Pastor, sound booth, myself. If they cut the feed, he added, your ally posts the recording with images of book and page. Keep your tone boring. Boring is granite. We practiced phrasing that respected Grandma and the room. Thank you for honoring her. I read. And now 2 facts that affect what happens next. I circled effect because words matter to me like oxygen. We printed QR codes that linked to the county lookups, then printed the URLs too, because codes can be called tricks when people are cornered. I wrote, I will not argue on a post-it, and stuck it to the inside of the envelope like a seatbelt. Priya packed duplicate USBs and set a scheduled upload labeled, if feed drops, publish. I slipped the house key from my ring into a small dish. It felt wrong to carry its weight while rehearsing removal. Mom left a voicemail, voice soft as fog. Don't humiliate us. I sat on my hands until the urge to call back passed like a wave. When the church confirmed a 2-minute thank you slot, Ruiz nodded once, which is his version of clapping. If my hands shook, the documents would carry my voice. Guilt dressed as reconciliation arrived at the diner on Oak and 3rd. Mark slid into the booth smelling like cologne and new leather. We don't have to do this, he began, palms up, like a TED Talk about mercy. We can reverse some things, shift others, keep Mom from panic. He sipped water as if hydration proved sincerity. No cameras, no drama, he said, lowering his voice on the D word like it was slur. Show me the hospital bills, I said. He smiled as if I'd told a joke he recognized from a workshop. Case, he murmured, you're a teacher. You hate conflict. Let me fix this quietly. The word quietly scratched at my ribs. Fix means return title to the trust, restore proceeds, and notify probate, I said. In writing, with dates. His cheeks tightened. You always were literal, he said. It's why you'll never lead. He leaned in. Do you want people to think you destroyed your own family at a church service? Mom arrived mid-sentence with a breathless, Mark, please, then turned to me with a trembling smile. If you love me, don't do this on video, she whispered. Love shouldn't be a lever. I love you, I said, and I'm done lying for you. She blinked like I'd pushed a wind she wasn't braced to meet. Mark tried another angle. Your principal won't like this, he said lightly. Schools hate scandal. He didn't know my principal watched the morning announcements like a hawk and loved receipts more than coffee. Threats bounced when you're wearing documents like armor. I texted Priya under the table, proceeding. She replied with a dot, a dash, a dot, the more she'd taught me for steady. Ruiz texted a phrase to memorize. I invite anyone to verify these records at the clerk's office. I breathed it in and let it anchor my tongue to my teeth. On the way out, Mark murmured, You'll regret the way you do this. He called me cruel. The checklist called me back to facts. Sunday, the church smelled like coffee and lilies and freshly vacuumed carpet. The livestream team taped small X's on the floor where speakers should stand, then tested lower third captions. In loving memory of Grace Maris. I found the pastor backstage and placed a sealed packet in his hands. Copies for you, the sound booth, and me, I said. If the feed fails, Priya told the tech, this USB has a cut with book/page overlays. He nodded with the weary competence of people who keep things from breaking in public. Ruiz stationed himself near the aisle, not obvious, not hiding. 2 minutes, the pastor reminded me. Gratitude first, then whatever you must. Must is a heavy word, it fit. Priya checked her watch, then the auto-upload scheduler on her phone. She texted my principal a heads up. Not content, just timing, because institutions prefer forewarning to surprise. I watched the comment feed climb as friends and strangers tuned in. Casseroles, heart emojis. Grace taught me to hem pants. I imagined Grandma tapping her pen on a label and smiling. Mark hovered near the control table with a look that said he owned the air. Mom sat front right, clutching a program as if her knuckles could hold back tied. We placed QR codes by the doors with plain text underneath. County records lookup book/page. If someone tore them down, the URLs remained on the paper in my envelope. I put my phone on airplane mode so nobody could pull me out of my sentences mid-flight. 2 youth volunteers adjusted the mic stand to my height. One whispered, You got this, ma'am. And I nearly cried because kids are kind like that when adults forget how. When the slideshow ended, the pastor smiled, then gestured to me. The little red light blinked awake like an eye. If they pulled the plug, the upload would go live elsewhere. Thank you for honoring my grandmother. I began, and my voice stayed mine. I teach kids to check sources, so I'm going to do that here. A polite ripple of laughter gave me the inch of air I needed. 2 facts that affect this memorial's fundraising story, I said, holding up the first page. 1. Grandma's will and trust. Filed months ago. Leave equal shares to Diane, Mark, and me, and hold the house in trust until documented debts are verified. I lifted the certified copy. The camera zoomed. The caption operator typed filed will. 2. I continued, switching packets. 3 days before this memorial, a quitclaim deed recorded transferring the house to Rook Ridge Holdings, LLC, with a notarized consent that is not my signature. I read book and page. I read the wire timestamp. Here is the notary's journal line, I said, with a date that doesn't match our family story and known signer where an ID should be. I held up the escrow summary showing owner proceeds to the LLC on the morning of the service. Anyone may verify these at the county clerk. Murmurs rose, a sea in a room. Mom covered her mouth. Tears jumped her lashes. Mark moved toward the sound booth like a man going for a fire extinguisher. Priya began the scheduled upload on her phone, eyes never leaving me. This isn't about shame, I said. It's about alignment. We can grieve and still tell the truth. The pastor stepped closer, calm as a clock. We will take a short pause to review these documents, he said into the mic, voice even. Grace loved order. Laughter sputtered, then died in throats. I placed a packet on the lectern and one at the booth. I'm not accusing motives, I said. I'm describing dates. I stepped back. 100 eyes moved to Mark as if pulled by a tide I didn't control. Mark stepped forward smiling, but his hands couldn't stop shaking. Fallout is quiet paperwork with loud feelings around it. The title company opened an internal review. The recorder flagged the file for a possible corrective action note. Probate put a hold on distributions. Ruiz filed a short letter with the court requesting preservation of estate assets and attaching the book/page and escrow sheet. We are not litigating here, he said. We're guarding the scene. The pastor sent a church-wide note reminding everyone that memorial funds were being paused, pending clarification, and offered refunds with no questions. People replied with casseroles and opinions. Family fractures ran along expected lines. Some cousins called me brave. Others called me an arsonist with a ring light. Mom left me messages that sounded like weather reports. Barometric pressure of shame rising. Humidity of fear 100%. Mark posted a black square captioned, betrayed by my own, and a quote about wolves in sheep's clothing. Against Ruiz's advice, I typed and deleted 8 replies before remembering my own rule. I will not argue. I screenshotted everything into the folder named weather and went for a run. Work didn't pause. 8th graders still asked if semicolons matter. They do. I told them commas save lives and backup copies save futures. At lunch, my principal knocked lightly. You kept it factual, she said. No judgment, just a statement. Our policy is neutral on private matters. My advice is keep documents, keep dignity. She slid me tissues like an accommodation, and I laughed, which felt like borrowing oxygen. Escrow's email arrived Thursday. Disbursement under review. Funds may be recalled if transfer found improper. The word recalled sounded like a bird turning midair to find home. I sent the note to Ruiz. He sent back a single thumbs up. Priya brought soup and a new sticky note for the folder. We don't win arguments. We win timelines. At night, the apartment sounded like paper cooling after a long print job. Winning on paper still feels like bleeding where no one sees. Healing did not look like a movie montage. It looked like settings. I froze my credit, set transaction alerts on every account, moved originals to a safe deposit box, and gave Priya a sealed envelope labeled, "If I lose my phone." Ruiz walked Mom and me through a written boundary. If you want help, ask in writing with amounts, due dates, and payees. No verbal loans, no cash. Mom cried, agreed, backslid, then texted me a screenshot of a real bill for the first time in my life. We paid it together online with receipts. It felt like stepping onto solid floor. The recorder's corrective action note became a rescission pathway. The title company offered to unwind the quitclaim back into the trust while probate sorted the rest. It'll be messy, Ruiz warned. Messy is still better than wrong. We filed a notice to preserve Grandma's intention exactly as she wrote it. No distributions without receipts. Mark stopped calling me directly. His lawyer emailed 2 paragraphs heavy with adjectives and light on dates. We replied with dates. I started therapy on Thursdays. My therapist said, grief and rage are siblings. Give them separate beds. I taped my rules inside a cabinet. No responding debate. Help only in writing. Keep copies. I added one more. Allow joy on purpose. On Sundays, I walked past Grandma's porch and left a single lemon on the step like a private holiday. I imagined her labeling it lemon Tuesday and had to smile. At school, a student asked why grown-ups lie. Because they're scared, I said, and because it sometimes works. He nodded solemnly, then handed in his bibliography with pride. That night, Priya texted a photo of the rescission stamped. I exhaled a month of held breath in 1 minute. The quiet that came back didn't ask for attention. It just stayed. Peace returned quietly, like a light switching on in another room. I used to think dignity meant swallowing hurt so others could eat peace. Now I think dignity is alignment. Your insides and outsides match, and your story and the records share a name. If you're standing where I stood, here's a map. Start at the recorder, search names, parcel, document type. Write down book and page, and request certified copies. Ask the probate clerk whether a will is filed. If not, note that answer. 2. Pull escrow summaries and request a disbursement breakdown. Photograph dates. Capture EXIF where you can. Print the URLs, not just QR codes. Speak with a calm audience in mind. The clerk, the court, your future self. Mail yourself a timeline with certified mail so the envelope's postmark becomes part of the record. Share copies with one trusted ally. Label every folder like Grandma did. Will, deeds, escrow, messages, boundaries. Don't post unless posting is part of your plan. The internet is a hungry thing that eats nuance. If you must go public, do it boring. 2 facts, 2 documents, 2 places to verify. Let other people perform. You present. On a clear morning, I held the house key the recorder returned after rescission and watched sunlight climb the door. The metal felt unchanged, but the meaning moved back where it belonged. Not ownership as power, but ownership as stewardship. I thought about Grandma's labels and decided to write one more. Home. OURS. Not mine. Not his. Ours, as she intended. Under the rules she trusted to protect us when love got scared and told stories. If I could send one message through the camera to anyone counting breaths the way I did, it would be this. The truth is heavy, but it has handles, and you can lift it. Bring help. Bring copies. Bring water. Bring your own steady voice wrapped in dates. Start with one date, one document, one breath, and let the camera roll.